my name is Hazel. Welcome to Canary Junction. We are a boutique shop, online shop, selling cushions and lampshades of different textures, different fabrics. We screen print, we buy fabrics from the UK, a variety of different types of fabrics, linens and cottons predominantly, all in short, we don't buy bulk quantities and we don't make many of each product just to keep them unique and special. So what are we going to do today? All of the products I've just mentioned are online along with the lampshade kits. So today we're going to make a lampshade, something for us to do inside with our families during this downtime, or you can do it on your own. So here we go. What's in the kit? So included in the kit is a self-adhesive lampshade panel, which creates the innard of our lampshade, 2 epoxy coated rings, one with the fitting, a finishing tool and some double-sided tape, and a set of instructions. This is just backup. I know we're doing it on YouTube, but it's just handy to have that just in case you want to make some notes. Also at home, you will need a ruler, a pen, just one pair of sharp scissors will suffice. However, I've got my dressmaking scissors as well, a tape measure and some masking tape. So when considering what fabric to use, I would always go for a natural product like linen or cotton. I wouldn't use anything too slippery like silk or slippery polyester. It's just hard to work with, and I just personally think cottons and linens work really well. Another thing I wouldn't do is go for a stretch fabric. Stretch is, it slips on the actual adhesive panel and it can be all distorted. So stick with a nice cotton or linen product. The other thing to think about is how much light you want to come through the shade. So if you want a lot of light to come through, go with a lighter fabric. Lots of whites and creams will let a lot of light through. And clearly if it's a dark navy blue fabric or a dark any colour, we'll just let an ambient light through. So just a consideration there. Another consideration is that the actual size of the design on the fabric. Now I'll just give you an example here. Now you can see here's a screen print that I've done. Whilst it's beautiful screen print and would look lovely on a larger height shade, I'm going to put our backing over this so you can see that if we use this fabric to stick onto this panel, we're actually going to lose a lot of the actual design. So when selecting your design, I would make it in size for the panel. So for example, something a bit smaller where you'd actually see the flowers. So don't pick a massive design on a smaller height lampshade. Okay, so let's have a look what fabric I've selected to use today. Now I've got a lovely John Lewis fabric here from London. It's, as you can see, it's a nice cotton. It's going to let a lot of light through, and it's also got a bit of pattern that I'm easily going to pick up on that size panel. So let's talk about how we actually put the panel on the fabric. You need to look at your fabric carefully and decide where you want the center of your shade to be. That's the front center. Now I would like to have this in the center, front center, but I would also like my shade to be centered this way. So centered like this and that in the center. Now how am I going to do that? Okay, well firstly I'm going to turn my fabric over because the self-adhesive panel actually gets stuck to the back of the fabric. So let's turn this fabric over. So we've turned the fabric over. I'm going to get my panel and I'm going to, I'm going to measure it, and it's 80.5 centimeters long. Now, I know I've marked where I want the center, front center to be. So if it's 80.5, I need to go back 40.25, which is half of that, to here, 40.25. And what I'm going to do is exactly what I've previously done, is mark that with some masking tape, either end, like so. So I now know that that is where my panel has to be placed for this to be in the center. Now I need to center it this way. So I'm going to measure the depth. Now with the edging, which we're going to snap off, this is actually 24 centimeters. So half of 24 is 12. Now I've actually marked on the masking tape the center point, and I need to go 12 down, and that will be where the corner sits. So 12 down is there. I'm going to mark that to there. So now I know where to place my panel. So we should be now centering both ways. Now what we also need to do though is to make sure that this is centered, because sometimes, believe it or not, fabrics aren't printed straight either. So I'm actually going to get a little pen that I had previously, and I'm going to mark the halfway spot here, which is here, and I'm going to measure 12 centimeters down from there, and that comes to here. So I now have a marker for both. So that should be right. That should be right. And there we have it. So we are now going to be perfectly centered in the middle, that beautiful design, but also centered this way. So we're ready now to put the backing on the fabric, which is the very exciting part. One thing I didn't mention earlier was you really need to have ironed your fabric prior to placement. If there's any creases in your fabric, there will be creases in your lampshade. So keep ironing your fabric until there are absolutely no creases at all. This is a really important stage. So now that we're all lined up and ready to go, what I'm going to do is, one, put my glasses on because I can't see without them. I'm going to put my hand here and I'm going to lift it up, and I'm going to actually double ensure that there are no bits on my fabric. Oh, I can see a little hair there. So it's very important that there are absolutely no bits, cotton, anything on your fabric. And I'm going to lift it up this side and ensure there's nothing there. Okay, so line it up. Make sure it's still lined up perfectly, and it is. I'm now going to push this forward and I'm going to peel off the backing. Just need to use your nails or fiddle around with it a bit and peel off the backing. Peel off about this much, tuck it under, pop the sticky onto the fabric, hold your hand down there and flick this over and pull it, keeping your fabric completely straight. Pull it down. Now this will stretch out along the fabric. Before I get to the end, I'm just going to remove that masking tape just in case it happens to stick on the top of it. I'm going to pull it down. Now I'm going to smooth it really firmly onto the fabric. Push it down firmly so that it sticks nicely. And I'm going to turn it over. Give it another push on that side. Make sure there are absolutely no wrinkles in it. If there are wrinkles or you've misplaced it on the fabric, you can pull it off once. I wouldn't recommend it more than once. Once that's done, what we're now going to do is use our scissors. I'll take that off now as well. Lift up the fabric on the ends. It's very important that the ends are cut very neatly. So I always find it's good to lift it up and cut, sort of running the scissors along like this. So I'm completely up against the panel when cutting it. The edges are very important to cut neatly. You can see that's pretty straight. And then I'm going to cut along the rest of it. So just do the cutting of the fabric all the way around until you get back to here. So I've now removed the edges on the fabric. The side pieces have come off and the fabric now looks like this. The next stage is to put our double-sided sticky tape on the rings. So we find the end of the tape and we actually place this in the middle of the outer ring, just like so. Just go all the way around, placing it in the center. Don't worry if it's not exact, but roughly in the center, like so. And then when we come back to where we started, just trim it off, leaving a slight bit of overlap, like so. Okay. And then just use your thumb and forefinger just to push it down, like so, all the way around on the ring. And do that with both of your rings. So both hoops have been received the double-sided sticky tape. Now what we need to do is take off the pink covering, but when you pull this off, you might need to fiddle a bit with your nails to separate them. Just make sure you don't pull off the whole thing. So touch it and make sure it's sticky underneath and pull off the backing like so. Now this is sticky, so, and here we go with the other one, which I've already released. Okay. Now I'm just going to pop them there for a minute. Now what I'm now going to decide is two things. Which end I want showing. Now I think that looks probably better than that. I don't know, maybe that looks better. Actually, I'm going to have this as my end that overlaps and shows like that. So this end needs to be sticky taped with your tape that you had earlier. So we run that along as close as we can to the edge, like so. Press it down firmly and then cut off the excess that's actually on the fabric, like so. And press down very firmly. Now the other thing at this stage we need to decide is this going to be a pendant light hanging in the ceiling, or is it going to be for a table lamp or a standing lamp? So we have a look at our fabric. In my situations, it doesn't matter which way up we do it, because obviously the fabric pattern is pretty neutral both ways. But if, for example, I had something like an animal down here or a flower that was going up, we'd need to ensure that we were putting the base on the right way up. So for example, if it was for a table lamp and the animal was down the bottom, I'd be putting it up there. But if it is for a pendant light and the animal is down the bottom, it would be at the top. So in my case, I'm not really fussy because I don't mind which way it goes. So now we're going to start rolling. So it's quite handy if you can have a partner to do this, but I'm going to actually do it on my own. So if you just want to come around here, Morgan, I'm going to start rolling it right on the edge. Can you see there? Right on the edge, not on the fabric, but right on the edge of the actual backing material. And you'll also notice that I started in the middle of a spoke, not at the end of the spoke. So I'm going to hold that. I'm also then going to do the same on the other side. Now, if you don't have anybody to help you and you're feeling a little bit nervous about doing this on your own, you can always use something like a little prop. I'll tell you what's actually good is a salt container. Sometimes I put a salt container here to hold this one while I actually manage that one. But once you get so far along, it will actually stick anyway. So now we're going to roll it along the edging. You must stay in the same straight line right on the edge. And you will notice too that this is going to be, as I mentioned, for a table lamp. The indent is actually inwards. Now this would be the same even if it was for a pendant. Carry on rolling right along. I've just got the salt container here. Look, it's a little bit archaic, I know, but I actually put that just there at the start if you haven't got anybody to help you and you just need to prop that up while you line up the other one. So I'm rolling right along, being very careful to keep on the backing but right on the edge until I get to about here. And now I'm going to remove the sticky off this. Fiddle around once again with your nails. And then we just peel that off. But once again, make sure that you don't peel off the whole sticky lot. So I've removed the backing on the double-sided sticky tape there. And I'm now rolling right to the edge, and there we are. So now I'm going to push down firmly so that it adheres to that sticky tape. And looking pretty good, don't you think? Okay, now what we have to do is tuck these edges in. So we're going to do a little bit of trimming first. So at the seam, you will see this little flap here. I need to cut off some of that. Don't cut it. Oh, those scissors aren't my dressmaking scissors, apologies. My dressmaking scissors. Just need a sharp pair of scissors. So I'm going to cut that off like this, but don't cut it. Make sure you've still got an overlap like that. So it's the inside bit of fabric I'm cutting off, but I'm not cutting it so that there's no overlap. I'm going to do that on both sides. And then where the spokes are, I'm also going to make a cut just halfway. Don't go right up to the spoke, just halfway, like that, and like that. So I'm turning it around and I'm doing the same on this side at the seam. Cutting away, but making sure I'm not cutting too much off. And there's still overlap. As you can see, there's still a bit of overlap there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to start tucking the fabric in. So just push the fabric up, pulling it tight with your thumb and forefinger, pulling it tightly and tucking it in with the fingers behind. So I'm just pulling this tightly all the way around. And we're going to do that on both sides. And I just want to show you around the spokes. So when you do it around the spokes, pull it up tightly like this, but just tuck it around the spoke. So I'm pulling it tightly and I'm just tucking it around, so you can see, like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that all the way around on both sides, and then we're going to come back to tuck it in. So I've tucked it in all the way around, as you can see, on both top and bottom. Now we need to get our finishing tool. Remember this? Now what I do is I actually cut off the bottom, cut that off, and I round off the top, just because I find this actually sticks into my hands and makes it a bit uncomfortable. So it ends up looking like that one. And then what we do is we start tucking it in. Now just have the tool sort of flat against the surface, and you're just pushing it in, and you hear some little clicks as you move around. Can you hear that? Yep, and that's good. Don't worry, you're not going to damage the shade. So and these long edges, you can just see I'm just pushing them in like that. If you want to cut them off, you can, but they will actually just push in. So we're going to go right around the shade. Pushing them in. Now this can take a little bit of getting used to and be a little bit frustrating at the start, but once you get the hang of it, it's not so bad. Okay, so all the way around on both sides, you can see that's looking a bit neater already. So just have the tool sort of like that. You're pushing in like that, and it can make a nice clicking noise, which is fine. Might take a bit of strength and a little bit of getting used to, but persevere and you'll end up with nice neat edges like that. So I'll just finish this off and then we'll come back and just tidy it up, and then voila, we finished. So I finished tucking it in, both top and bottom, as you can see. Now it looks good from this angle, but what I'm now going to do is check that it's good from every angle. Now I'm going to go in over the top, and the reason we don't want any sort of loose bits sticking up at all, like for example here, we can zoom in there, is that when the light's on you will notice an uneven edge at the top and the bottom. So from this angle I'm going in at the top, and I'm just going to tuck everything in perfectly with my finishing tool. By the way, if your finishing tool becomes a little bit bent like this and you find it hard to use, just trim it back a little bit more. So I'm going to go right around, making sure that everything is perfectly tucked in. So there's no bits at all sticking up whatsoever. It's all completely tucked in, and I'm going to do that top and bottom. Now once that's been done, the final stage, so I'm happy with that. I'm now going to turn it over and do the same. The final stage is just to trim off any excess cotton. Okay, that looks really good to me. So you'll see around the spokes that there's always little bits of cotton here, so just put your finger underneath And here we go. Here's a few bits of cotton that I just want to trim off. Make sure there's no more underneath. No, that feels good. Same here. And the third spoke. I think there is a little bit of cotton there. And then also along the seam line, the top, and I'll check the other end. There's one little piece of cotton there I'm not happy with. The final thing I'm going to do is give it one last push down along the seam. And there you have it. Now you'll see that this lampshade has got an inner piece here which can be removed depending on the base you're going to put it on. So I need to take mine out for the base I'm going to use. So just push it together, push it out, it comes out quite easily like that. Pop it on your base. I always make sure the seam is at the back where the cord is. Put your tightener on. Just make sure your lampshade is straight on the base. And I'm going to screw my globe in. And voila! Hopefully this all comes together nicely. Let's hope that globe works. Yes, lovely. Great, okay, so there's our finished product. Thank you for watching from Canary Junction. Hope you enjoyed it, hope it was informative, and if you need kits, fabric, cushions or ready-made lampshades, please visit us at Canary Junction. Details to follow. Thank you.